I don't know about you, but I take prepping my vehicle for the wintertime very seriously because the last thing I want is to be stranded on the side of a highway in the middle of a blizzard with my wife and 2-year-old with me. The reality is, winter is the most dangerous time of the year when it comes to driver safety and wear and tear on your vehicle. So today I'm going to share some tips that'll help you avoid being in an accident, avoid getting stranded, and protect your car so the winter doesn't destroy it. Am I in focus? Why is winter driving more dangerous in general? Well, it's because of the slippery conditions and also a lack of visibility in bad weather. So it's no surprise that tires are on the absolute top of this list. After all, they're your only point of contact with the ground. If you lose that, you lose control. So what does that mean? Well, first and foremost, you need to have tires that are rated for the winter. And technically, yeah, some all-season tires do pass the test. Most of the time, they're not good enough. You definitely do not want to run summer tires in the winter time. I think that's pretty obvious. But one that a lot of people might not know about, because it kind of seems counterintuitive, is a lot of off-road tires are no good in the snow and the ice. So any dedicated mud tire with the big knobby tread lugs on it are no good in slippery conditions. You gotta have A, soft compound for the cold weather, and B, you wanna have a lot of siping on those lugs because it needs to be able to flex in order to grip onto the slippery surface. A mud tire with those big lugs, essentially those are acting like tiny little racing slicks because it's just one big solid chunk of rubber. The absolute best option for a tire for the winter is, you guessed it, a dedicated winter tire. There's nothing gonna beat that, and I don't run them. On my 4Runner and on my Tacoma, I run all-terrain tires, but both the Goodyear Duratrax and the Motomaster Eliminator X Trails that I have outside on the Tacoma have the 3-peak snowflake rating on them, which means that they are intended to perform as a winter tire. In my experience, are they as good as an actual winter tire like the Michelin X-Ice that my parents have on their Camry? No, they're not quite as good. Are they better than any other typical off-road tire or a mud tire or an all-season tire? Night and day difference. They are better than all of those. Another really big factor is the tread depth. You want to check how much tread you have left on your tires, right? Because even the highest quality winter tire is no good to you if it's worn out and it's bald. It's actually more unsafe than, an all-season tire at that point. Make sure they're wearing evenly as well, because on the outside of the tire, it might look like it's got lots of meat left, but if your alignment is way out of whack, you're going to want to take a look at the inside of the tire as well, and it might be completely bald in there, which means you're only getting a fraction of the grip that you should be getting. Lastly, you want to check the air pressure in your tires, because an overinflated tire with too much pressure in it is going to lose its traction bigly compared to if it's properly inflated. And don't make the same mistake that so many people make and forget to check the air pressure on your spare tire, because in the event that you need to use that, you're probably not going to have time to go and fill it up at the gas station or use your little portable air compressor on the side of the road. Freaking dog keeps barking. When you're choosing which tires to run on your vehicle, make sure you don't rely on the fact that it's all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, because steering and braking are equally or more important than being able to accelerate in a straight line. Four-wheel drive is basically helpful to get unstuck out of deep snow, and that's pretty much it. Next, let's talk about lighting, and you want to make sure that none of your light bulbs are burnt out, especially on the rear of your vehicle if you want to avoid getting rear-ended in a snowstorm. This is also a great time to restore your headlight lenses, because if they're dull and faded, they're going to really affect your visibility. I've got a video on here all about headlight restoration, so go ahead and check that out if you're interested. Fancy light bars like these are awesome when you're out in the country, but they're completely unusable here in the city. You're just going to end up blinding everybody. Yellow or amber is definitely the color that you want to go with in terms of aftermarket lighting, because more of a white, bluish light is going to actually bounce off the raindrops or the snowflakes, and in a lot of cases it'll actually harm your visibility way more than help it. Especially if your lighting is above your head, like if you have a light bar on your roof like I do, it's just going to make a smoke screen across your windshield, basically bouncing off all of the snowflakes. So yellow or amber does a great job of cutting through the moisture in the air instead of reflecting off of it. LED headlight bulbs are certainly brighter, but they do come with a downside, and that's the fact that they burn cooler. They don't actually produce enough heat to melt the snow or ice off of your headlight lenses the way that halogen lights do. So if you're going to upgrade your bulbs like I did with these from Oxido, then make sure that you scrape off any snow or ice off your headlights before you leave. Now, let's work on lowering our chances of getting stranded. I think the most obvious one here is to check on your battery, because you ain't gonna go anywhere if you can't start your car. So it's a good idea to kind of pay attention to how your vehicle is starting while it's still warm, like in the fall and stuff. If it's already starting to cough and have a little bit of a hard time turning over when the temperatures are still fairly warm, as soon as the cold weather hits, it's gonna completely be toast. A cold engine requires so much more energy to be able to turn over. So if your battery is already struggling, you know it's not going to be good in the wintertime. But if you're not sure, you can also just take it to pretty much any parts store, and I think most of them will test it for you for free. And you want to get it load tested. You don't want to just check the voltage on the terminals, because even a bad battery can still show decent voltage, but as soon as you strain it by putting a load on it, if it's got a dead cell or something in it, it just completely poops the bed. Fix existing known problems on your car. What do I mean by that? Like, if your brakes are squealing or your alignment is off, those things are not exactly going to fix themselves in the wintertime, that's for sure. Traction and stability are already tough enough as it is. You don't need your car making it even worse for you just because it's been neglected. On that note, it's a good idea if you own a four-wheel drive vehicle to make sure that your four-wheel drive engages properly. I check my 4Runner once a month. I shift it into 4 low, back into 4 high, and I engage the center differential lock. Turn it on, turn it off. Make sure that all the lights come on in the dash and stay on. You don't want them flashing, and you don't want them making like a beeping noise. That means that it failed to engage. Otherwise, you kind of have a false sense of security while you're out there driving around, because you might be making decisions based on, oh, I can make it through that deep snow, no problem. But if you're stuck in two-wheel drive, you're gonna have a problem. Check your windshield wipers and definitely make sure to top up your washer fluid. So if your wipers are kind of crappy in the summertime when it's just a rainy day, they're for sure going to be awful in the wintertime, because you have just as much moisture that you're dealing with, but you also have like the road salt spray that gets sprayed on them. You're dealing with ice and then getting stuck with little chunks of snow and ice on them. So if they're already bad in the nice weather, they're going to be brutal in the wintertime. Just change them. As far as washer fluid goes, I don't know about you, but I don't use it any other time of the year. It's only a winter thing for me. And all it takes is 30 seconds of driving on the highway behind another vehicle on a wet day, and all that salt spray just sticks to your windshield and you go blind almost instantly. And it is crucial to have your washer fluid topped up. Make sure you got stuff that's not going to freeze on you. I see a lot of people flip their windshield wipers up before a snowstorm so that they don't freeze to the windshield, but I don't do this anymore. I've actually heard stories of this wearing out the spring tension in the wiper arm, and it causes the wiper to not have enough pressure on the windshield anymore. And it means that even if you have brand new wiper blades on there, they're just not gonna wipe the windshield properly because they're not pushing hard enough. I've also heard of these wiper arms just snapping off in really windy snowstorms too, which I think is probably an extreme situation, but it has happened apparently. So I just scrape my windshield with one of these guys right here with the brush on the other side. This is all you need. I give the wipers just a little tap, tap, tap to knock any snow or ice off of them. And aside from that, the defroster on full blast is going to do the rest of the heavy lifting for you. It's also important to have some kind of an emergency kit with you. I keep this bag in the trunk of my 4Runner. But I'm not going to get too deep into this because everybody has different preferences and different priorities. Some things that you might want to keep with you are a toe strap, a booster pack, a warm blanket, hat and mitts, some tools. A first aid kit is a good idea. I keep a couple of toe straps with me actually. I keep this one, this is like literally a toe strap, right? So it's got metal hooks on it. The reason I use this is quick and easy to attach to a vehicle if you're like in a dangerous situation or something. But this is not a recovery strap, this is a toe strap. So you can't tug really hard on this if something is stuck deep in the snow or something. That's what I've got this guy for. This is 18,000 pounds. It has knitted loops on it, which are meant to be used with like a D-ring shackle. I have a D-ring shackle that plugs into my trailer hitch that I use for on one side, and then I keep a spare shackle in my toolkit as well. This is the battery booster that I keep with me, the booster kit. This is from Oxito, and all of them are pretty similar. I'll put a link down below in the description if you want to check this one out. But the most important thing here isn't what brand you use or how much you spend on one. It's make sure it's charged up. This is no good to you if you bought it, put it in your car, and never check the charge on it again. So you can see mine is at 100% right now. So feel free to pack as if you're going on a Siberian expedition if you want to, but just keep in mind that you've only got so much storage space to work with and you're gonna have to put the groceries somewhere. Now let's talk about protecting our vehicles. It's a good idea to check all of your fluids and make sure they're all cleaned and topped off. Did you know that if you live in an extremely cold climate, your car might actually require a different oil viscosity for the winter months? So make sure to check your owner's manual to find out what's recommended for the temperatures that you experience. You don't want to be running molasses inside your engine if it's going down to -50 at night, that's for sure. Your coolant mixture is another thing to think about. And sure, down south you can get away with just running distilled water, but it can freeze inside your engine up here, and I'm sure you can assume that is very, very bad. So if you purchased your vehicle from somewhere else, you might want to look into this. They have testers that you can kind of dip into your coolant to see what temperature it'll be okay for. For me, I just run Toyota Super Long Life coolant. It comes pre-mixed, so there's no mixture involved. I just pour this straight in, one shot, no big deal. Some people will wipe a silicone spray on their rubber door seals to keep their doors from freezing. And I don't do this because there's a chance that that can actually degrade the rubber over time. It can cause it to swell, it can cause it to crack. I just keep an eye on the weather forecast, to be honest. If I've been driving on a really wet, rainy day, and then the forecast says that it's gonna be flash freezing and going down to -20 overnight, I'll just come out here and wipe out my door jambs with a rag. No water means no ice. Also, in the event that your doors do freeze shut, make sure to pull on the actual door and not just on the handle, because these plastic handles get brittle in the cold and they can break really easily when you're yanking really hard on them. Rubber floor mats or floor liners are a great idea to keep your carpet clean and dry in the winter months. You're bound to be tracking in snow and ice on your boots every time you get into your car, so unless you want to be deep cleaning your fabric floor mats, rubber ones just make life so much easier. Waxing, sealing, or ceramic coating your paint will mean that contaminants are less likely to stick to it, and when they do, it's a lot easier to wash them off. Ceramic coatings offer the best protection by far, but they're also expensive and they require special care. So feel free to stick with a high quality paint sealant like Just Car Power Lock or something like that, and just keep your car clean, wash it on mild days, and you'll be fine. So we've protected the top of our vehicles with paint protection, but it's even more important to protect our undercarriage from rust, because that's where all the road salt is collecting anyways. So watch this video next to learn everything you need to know about oil spraying. One more bonus tip, just move down south.